In a small village surrounded by mountains and fertile lands, there lived a woman named Kamara. She was the eldest daughter of King Tach and was known for being a princess with a kind and gentle heart. However, she faced a unique challenge. Kamara was unusually tall and muscular for a princess, standing out like a giant among the villagers. Since birth, she had suffered from a condition that caused her to grow in an extraordinary way, and her imposing stature intimidated the villagers. As she grew, her muscular physique became more apparent, which further increased the villagers' apprehension. Mothers would pull their children away from her, young people avoided her, intimidated by her size, and men did not dare to court her, fearing having a wife much larger and stronger than them. This was a problem for King Tach, who had no sons to succeed him on the throne, only Kamara and her younger sister Pricus. Therefore, it was crucial for Kamara to marry to secure a male heir to the throne. This pressure made Kamara feel increasingly lonely, even though she was always kind and dedicated to her people. She busied herself caring for others' needs, but loneliness and disappointment weighed heavily on her heart. Many times, she found solace by crying alone in the forest, far from the eyes of the palace guards. One day, while crying in the woods, she heard a desperate scream that drowned out her sobs. "Help, please help!" shouted a male voice coming from a nearby path. Kamara rushed to the location and found a man trapped under a fallen tree. "How did you end up trapped under this tree?" she asked. "I'm a hunter," he replied. "I was walking and well, please help me out of this situation, and I'll tell you the whole story later." Kamara, with her incredible strength, lifted the tree as if it were a small branch and moved it away from the hunter's body. After helping him up, she asked again, "Now that you're free, can you tell me how you got trapped under the tree? This doesn't happen by chance." The hunter laughed and said, "You're right, these things usually don't happen, do they? I was on a hunting expedition, like any other day, when I came across a huge antelope I had never seen before. I followed it until I finally cornered it from a distance. Unfortunately, I was in a place full of animal droppings. When I was about to shoot the antelope, my leg slipped, making a loud noise. The antelope got scared and ran away. I chased it quickly, but it accidentally hit a weakened tree. When I got close to the tree, it gave way due to the antelope's impact and fell on me. It's funny how I tried to catch the antelope, and instead, I got caught by the tree." "What an adventure!" exclaimed Kamara. "I bet you have adventures like this every time you go hunting." "Oh yes, many adventures. By the way, what's your name, mighty lady?" "I owe you my life," said the hunter. "I am Kamara, Princess Kamara. And you?" "Oh, Princess Kamara. Of course, now it all makes sense. You are the famous giant princess of our land. I knew something seemed familiar when I saw you. I am DK, son of Nu and grandson of Dimpa, the greatest chief priest our land has ever known," he replied. Kamara, surprised by his sincerity, asked, "So, you think I'm beautiful?" "Of course. Didn't you know you are one of the most beautiful women in our land?" DK asked, sincerely. "It's the first time I've heard someone call me beautiful. Usually, people mock my height and muscular physique. Most guys avoid even talking or looking at me because of my stature," replied Kamara. DK, noticing how much this affected her, said, "Well, I think you are beautiful. Those other guys don't know what they're talking about." Hearing this, Kamara began to blush silently. "So what are you doing in the forest? Surely, the princess of our land hasn't started hunting alone like us peasants," DK teased. "Oh, no. I come here alone to have some time to myself and connect with nature. It's no big deal. And for the record, I don't consider hunters to be peasants. You are truly brave and honorable," replied Kamara. "It seems you come to the woods because you feel lonely. However, I think you are a kind person," responded DK. "You're right, DK. I usually come here through the secret part of the forest so that no one sees me on the way. And yes, I come here because I feel alone, and the woods are the only place where I find comfort with the animals," said Kamara. No. Don't say that about yourself. Haven't I already told you that you are beautiful? From now on, I'll be your friend. I'll never judge you for your height, and most importantly, you won't have to be alone the next time you come to the woods," DK said with conviction. Kamara's eyes sparkled with joy as she realized she had made her first friend in a long time. So DK and Kamara spent the rest of the day talking and laughing, and Kamara felt a connection she had never experienced before, as if someone truly appreciated her true self, overlooking her giant and imposing stature. When night came, Kamara bid DK farewell and ran back to the palace. But before that, they promised to meet in the forest the next day. Upon returning, she quietly slipped through the doors so no one would hear her, but when she reached her room, she found her sister Pricus sitting on her bed. Pricus was Kamara's wicked sister, much more beautiful than her, attracting all the attention and flaunting several boyfriends at once. Pricus used to rub her romantic conquests in Kamara's face to belittle her older sister, feeling superior to her. When Pricus saw Kamara sneaking back into her room, she surprised her with a monologue. "Well, hello, sister. How was your day? It looks like you had another mischievous day running around the kingdom. Don't you know you're dishonoring our family when you go out and spend time in the forest? What would happen if someone saw you, a full princess, behaving like?" Pricus continued her monologue, but Kamara was already accustomed to her sister's harsh words. However, this time, something was different. Kamara felt more confident, perhaps for the first time, after meeting DK. She took a deep breath, and instead of remaining silent as usual, she replied, "Pricus, how much longer will you keep belittling me? Do you think your words affect me? Do you think that by insulting me and treating me this way, you'll feel more powerful, more beautiful? Well, know that your cruelty only shows how small you are on the inside." Pricus, surprised by her sister's reaction, frowned. It was clear she didn't expect this response. She had always used Kamara's insecurities against her, but now it seemed that wasn't having the same effect. And you, reader, have you ever faced someone who constantly tried to bring you down, but one day, suddenly realized that this person's words no longer hold power over you? This can be a moment of liberation and growth. Back to the story, Pricus decided to change tactics. "Oh, I see you're feeling brave today," she said with a sneer. "But tell me, what have you really gained by going to the woods? A friend? Do you really think this DK guy wants anything more than your company? You're naive, Kamara. A hunter, a commoner. He's not worthy of a princess, even if you're a princess out of the ordinary." Kamara smiled slightly. "Maybe you're right, Pricus. Maybe DK is just a hunter, a simple man. But so what? What if I prefer the simplicity and honesty of a hunter instead of the falsehood and ambition of some nobles we know? What really matters to you? The title of princess or the essence of who we are?" The atmosphere in the room changed. Pricus, sensing that her words were not having the desired effect, fell silent. And perhaps that's the great lesson, isn't it? True strength is not in being what others expect of us, but in being who we truly are, even when it seems like the world is against us. Meanwhile, outside, the kingdom was beginning to notice the change in Kamara. The villagers, who once feared her for her imposing appearance, were now beginning to see something more in her, a princess with a courageous heart. And you, reader, have you ever stopped to think about how others see you? Are we so trapped in expectations and judgments that we forget to show our true essence? The next day, Kamara and DK met again in the forest. This time, Kamara was accompanied by a palace guard, as King Tatch had requested. DK laughed when he saw the guard. "So, now I have to share your company, princess?" Kamara smiled and explained, "It's just a precaution, DK. My father wants to ensure my safety. It's not because I'm afraid of you, it's because I'm of royal blood." "And you, DK, what do you think of this? Would you agree to share time with me?" Kamara asked playfully, but her voice carried a serious tone. DK looked her in the eyes and replied, "If it means having your company, princess, I accept any condition." And so they spent the day hunting and telling stories, discovering that they had much more in common than they had imagined. Both were passionate about hunting but also about the idea of a fairer and more honest world. And at the end of the day, as the sun was setting, DK looked at Kamara and said, "You know, princess, every time we're together, I feel like I'm discovering a part of myself that was lost. And you, Kamara, do you feel the same?" You, reader, have you ever felt like this? Have you ever met someone who made you realize something new about yourself? That kind of encounter that's not just about getting to know the other person, but about discovering parts of ourselves that were hidden? As DK and Kamara's friendship blossomed, Pricus could no longer contain her envy. She knew that if she didn't act fast, she might lose any chance of becoming the next ruler of the kingdom. She decided to resort to drastic measures. She fled the palace and sought out Elizabeth, her friend who had an aunt known as one of the most feared witches of the neighboring kingdom. Pricus was willing to make any sacrifice to ensure that Kamara and DK's union would fail. And you, reader, how far would you go to get what you want? Ambition can be dangerous if not controlled. When Prickus finally arrived at the witch's cabin, she found Elizabeth's aunt surrounded by strange symbols and thick smoke. "What do you want from me, child?" asked the witch, her voice hoarse and full of distrust. "I want a spell," Prickus replied. "I want to make sure that Kamara and DK's union never happens." The witch laughed. "You know the price of such a spell, don't you?" Prickus nodded. "I am willing to pay any price." And you, reader, have you ever thought about the consequences of wanting something at any cost? Sometimes, the price is higher than we imagine. While Prickus was conspiring with the witch, back at the palace, King Tatch was worried. He could sense that something was wrong, and his fatherly intuition told him that Prickus was up to something. "Kamara," he said, "I want you to be careful. I've been having a bad feeling. Something tells me your sister isn't happy with how things are going." "Don't worry, father," Kamara replied, trying to reassure him. "I have DK by my side now, and I know that together we can face anything." The king smiled, but he couldn't shake the fear he felt deep in his heart. And you, reader, do you trust your intuition? Often, our instincts warn us of dangers we cannot see. Prickus, after her meeting with the witch, returned to the palace with a plan in mind. The next morning, she intercepted DK as he was on his way to meet Kamara. "Do you think you can just show up and steal my sister's heart? You don't know her like I do. She may seem kind, but inside her, there's a beast, and she will destroy you," she said, trying to plant doubt in DK's heart. DK, however, was not shaken. "Prickus, I know you have your concerns, but my intention with Kamara is pure. I love her for who she is, not for what others think of her." But still, something in Priccus's voice left him unsettled. Was there more to the story than he knew? Have you ever wondered if you truly know someone? Or if what you see is just a part of what the person really is? As doubts began to grow in DK's heart, Kamara continued to trust him completely. However, noticing a slight distance in DK, she began to wonder, am I wrong to trust so much? What if this is all a mistake? She remembered her father's words about trusting her intuition, but was her intuition right? And you, reader, how would you handle this situation? Would you trust blindly or start questioning everything around you? The doubts and tensions began to build. And Prickus, watching from afar, knew her plan was working. She knew that the key to destroying Kamara and DK's union was to plant seeds of uncertainty and fear. Often, the greatest enemies do not come from outside but from within us. Would DK and Kamara's love be strong enough to resist these manipulations? Or would fear and doubt prevail? Prickus decided to take it a step further. She set a trap in the woods, knowing that DK and Kamara planned to return to seek the supposed cure for Kamara's condition. She poisoned the path and did everything to ensure that once there, the cure would become a deadly trap. On the day of the journey, DK and Kamara, along with the palace guards, set out for the forest of Akba. And you, reader, have you ever followed a path believing it would lead to your cure, only to face even more challenges and dangers? Life often presents us with tests when we least expect it. As the group advanced through the forest, the guards began to notice something strange. The trees were denser, the air was heavier, and a stench of rot spread throughout the environment. DK, sensing danger, signaled for everyone to stay alert. "Something is wrong here," he whispered to Kamara. "I feel we've been deceived." Deceived? But by whom? Kamara asked, her heart racing. Could this be the work of her sister, Prickus? And if so, how could they escape the trap she had set? Before they could think of a plan, the ground began to tremble, and the trees around them started to fall, revealing a group of masked warriors. They had fallen into an ambush. DK and the guards quickly positioned themselves to protect Kamara. And you, reader, how would you react in such a situation? Would you run to save your life or stand by those you love, facing danger together? The ensuing battle was intense. DK fought with all his might to protect Kamara, and the palace guards, loyal to the king, fought bravely. Kamara, using her unusual strength, also did not back down. She knew that the only way out of there alive was to fight alongside DK and her guards. What would you do in her place? Would you stay in the shadows waiting for others to solve the problem, or would you face the danger head-on? At the end of the battle, after much struggle and sacrifice, DK and the guards managed to repel the attackers. But the danger was not over yet. The group was exhausted and wounded, and they were still in the middle of a treacherous forest. "We need to get out of here now," DK said urgently. "We're too exposed." They started to head back along the path, but suddenly, Kamara stumbled and fell. Looking at her foot, she saw that she had been hit by a poisoned arrow. The venom began to spread rapidly, and DK knew they needed to act fast.
Hold her down.
We can't let the poison spread any further. And now, reader, what do you think will happen? Will DK and the guards manage to save Kamara? Is the cure they spoke of real, or was it all a lie to deceive them? Will Prickus be able to continue with her evil plan, or will Kamara and DK's love and courage prevail in the end? Many questions remain unanswered, but what is certain is that this story is not over yet. Life is full of challenges and trials, but also of moments of great courage and hope. What will be the next step for Kamara, DK, and everyone involved? What does fate have in store for them? Only time will tell. Until the next part, where we will discover the outcome of this exciting story. Don't forget to tell us in the comments what you think and what you hope will happen next. Your support is very important to us.